Okay. Are we done? Did you do an introduction?
No.
No. Who here's on the calls with Aresta on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays?
Yes.
Keeners, Randall?
No,
No, but you get all the material
I
because
do, and I've been knocking on some doors.
All right. So you guys go through your little 10-4s every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Is that what happens on the calls? Is that right?
so we go over what calls we're planning to do, what calls we did yesterday, thank you cards, and
And do we have any good successes, stories, Karen? Any stories to tell? Any houses we've seen in the last day or two inspected? Anybody inspected a house today?
I did.
Let's go today, but.
I did 3 yesterday.
3, what did you see?
I saw one up on Greenmount. No, it's like Dufferin and St. Clair. I
Okay,
saw one in Little Italy at Full Gut. It's a weird one. Tony Kudos.
okay.
And then where was the other one? What was the street? I can't remember the street name. It's in Hyde Park or Bloor West.
Okay.
I can look it up.
Loopy, what did you see?
I saw Armadale and
Mayfield.
thank you, Willard, and Alhambra.
Alhambra.
I saw-
Had a nice chat with her.
Who's that?
Newton.
Oh, no, yeah. Did you tell her on our team?
I did.
There you go.
Very nice chat.
You're in. Okay, so I just have a little bit of an in because those 3 are both all on my team, so they know a few of my tricks, but one of them is, what is the recommendation that you do when you go to an agent's open house? Tally, do you remember what I suggested?
To get to know the agent,
And Kathy, anything?
the seller.
And I have a little trick about doing agents open houses. Nobody remembers? Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Okay, the trick is you go to them, you see the listing price, and then you write down what you think it's gonna sell for.
Oh.
And then you review the next week when it's actually sold and you see how close you are to it. It will instantly help you remember the house way better because you know, it's like, and you have to make a decision. Part of the problem when you're in real estate is making decisions. And today's a little bit about closing the deal after you've made that offer and stuff like that, but you have to make a decision on advising a buyer on what should they offer. And these are decisions, and that sort of agent's open house little trick is your first in the pricing decision, which by the way can really stump you if you're not careful, if you don't do it more often.
When you do that little exercise, you do it on the spot in the house, or do you go home and sit down and get all your comps and then figure it out?
That's a good question. In a perfect world, you do your comps, but in reality, you're not probably gonna do
Okay.
that. So you're just like, you gotta make a guess, an educated guess, and it's based on what you've seen in the past, you know? But you can sort of get a sense right away. But people call me all the time, and I'm sure they'll be calling you guys, you know each other, is what did you think of that house? How much do you think it's gonna go for? Because you have a client that's interested. So right away, like for example, at 425 Armadale, everybody's talking about it. It seems listed too low, what do you think it's gonna go for? Loopy, what do you think it's gonna go for? She's brand new in the business, doesn't even have her MLS thing, so I'm just gonna say, good luck with this one. Do you think it's priced right? Do you remember what it's priced
I
at?
don't recall.
See, this is the other thing. It will
I
also
just
help
literally-
you.
Yeah, I just literally did the rule and then ran in here, so I haven't.
It will,
Yes.
but my point is things happen
1.2
fast in this
million.
business, and it's just like, you just gotta go. You're like, how much is that one? That's like 1289 or something like that, so it's just, this is how you have to think, you just have to keep thinking through it. Go, 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 boom. Ask Tally, she's just like, her brain is fried from trying to think too
Totally
much.
fried.
Okay, next, how do I do this?
well, sorry, it's going to be just the arrow. Sorry, Jules.
Do I just go like this?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay, today's session. Close the deal. So does everybody have their KW? You're not KW.
Not the only one.
We're not speaking any longer. It's okay, I heard you're a superstar, you're doing great. Okay, so my KW. Who here logs into my KW?
You mean for the materials?
Yeah. What? Of course I do, whatever. I do not go into my KW enough, I'm just gonna say, because I prepared for this session, and I'm like, this is a really good, like, they've really done a lot. There's a lot of good material on here. Anyway, so this is all on your my KW kind of thing. Oh, that's just your review of the session, right? That's not your actual stuff like that. So this is your 10-4, right? And what's on your 10-4, everybody? What's the goal every day?
10 new contacts, 10 thank you notes, 10 reviews, no,
Yes.
it's 10 reviews per week.
Yeah.
What's the last one?
And
10
10
follow-ups.
10 warm, like 10 follow-ups
From
from your
follow-ups.
database.
Oh, nice. So you're doing 10 calls
10
of who?
10 new calls,
10
10
addition.
cold, 10 warm,
How? Like door knocking?
door knocking, cold calling.
How are you doing? You're doing door knocking?
Yeah.
And what are you doing?
I'm doing a combination. I've been doing door
Open
knocking.
houses, those would be cold, right?
Yeah.
And then you're doing 10 follow-up from your database?
Yes.
I'm just logistically thinking this through. How does that happen on a daily basis?
So it's part of your 8x8. So yeah, you're just calling, hey, you know, did you receive my thank you card? And is there any information that I could send to you?
Who here made any written notes this week? I know our team did. You did. Any of you guys? Little keener beaners?
I sent one to my mother.
Spreading the love. Spreading the love. Building a foundation.
She appreciates
I will tell you that the people closest to you are the least likely to think you're any good at this business.
Yeah.
They know you the best,
Definite.
and they think you suck. So, sending them the newsletter, sending them consistent information, I'm telling you, builds your sort of profile within your own family. Like my sister-in-law, she refers me, but I guarantee it's because I drip on them. I do. I send them, I invite them to my events, I get all this stuff, and they're not moving because they move, but you know, they refer me lots of people. Okay, so that's your 10-4, then you're practicing scripts with a partner. Who here practices scripts with a partner?
Sometimes.
Randall?
I
Who's your
love it to
partner?
Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
We could do like script practicing with people, randoms. Sometimes you sit there for an hour and wait for somebody to show up. So I mean, when it happens, you're like, oh, there's someone wants to connect. So
And do not, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, what is that? That's just reporting your numbers?
Yeah, this is the 10-4 we talk about.
So those would be a good resource of anybody in that group to be a script partner. And usually the way we do it is 10 minutes before you actually do the calls, you just spend 10 minutes doing your script practicing. And I've done tons of masterminding with people all over North America in little threesomes and twosomes and stuff like that, and often it's script practicing, often it's mindset stuff, often it's a lot of this Ignite stuff. So it doesn't matter what level you're at in this business, you're constantly learning, constantly getting better, and improving your skills and sharpening the saw and all that stuff. So Ignite, I think, is a perfect example of how to be a proper little realtor. And you can see how easy it is, or how simple it is. What do they call it? Simple, but not easy. See, it's
Yeah.
like you intend to do it, but you never actually got it done. How many calls did you do? How many texts did you do? How many notes? These are really good habits. So you don't have to take any other courses, you just actually have to do what you're supposed to do here. Prepare contract for close, learn from others. What about interviewing other agents in the market center? Do you ever talk to anybody else in this market center, and do they help you?
Yeah, I talked to all my friends.
Who are your friends?
Well, this
So
guy
who
that,
can we call?
this guy that I was supposed to be partners with,
Okay.
I still talk to him every week.
Good?
My friend who I went to school with, every Monday we call each other kind of like what we do. So we do accountability Mondays. We
Cool.
go through and we make a plan for the week, and just.
That's huge, just so
Yeah.
you guys know, that was a massive nugget right there, the Monday morning thing, that's great.
And there was a couple people from my team that I just left that I never actually like really met and like while I was in the team, and we're like friends now that I've left, so I connect with them.
Right, and you can talk about, you know, a lot of these steps, you know. I was talking to Lucy last week, and she literally was like, okay, I've got my license, now what? Like, how do you write up an offer? And so now it's, okay, this is how you write up an offer. Yesterday I was helping Tally, we call them Tally and Lucy because they're both names are Lisa, so it's easier to call them by the last names. And Tally's like, you know what, our database really confuses me, so you spend some time with them, right? Just grab somebody. People call me all the time in the office, it's just totally fine. Follow up with previous power sessions. Do you guys ever do that? We're supposed to, right?
What does that mean?
Oh,
Isn't this a power session?
no,
What's a power session?
this is just a session.
Complete activities from the action plan and the previous power session. This is a power session. I'm powerful. I'm pretty sure it says in the last page of this session what you're supposed to do for next session, so that's what I think it is.
I'm feeling the power.
That's right. I'm feeling the heat, actually. It's like warm in here.
Let's open the doors and I'll go check.
Okay, grow your database. So that's what you guys are doing. That's your goal, right? Growing your database. No cards, we talked about this, Ignite My Tracker. So this is your fancy little, have you guys ever been on My Tracker? It's also on the MyKW. It's pretty funky, it's cool.
It's actually at the end of each of the missions, I think.
Yes, it is. It is, but you can also,
Yeah, in order to...
you can do it online. Make it all fancy, look all pretty. We are a tech company, remember? Okay. Oops, what do we say here? Lead generate. Get out your coffee. So that is, you guys are doing this on your own. But remember, it's good guidance. Get your head in the game, close on time, smooth process, win future business, discuss how you ensure these outcomes. Okay, so this is now we're back into today's session, which is closing the deal.
Just in case that's
Oh, you're sweet, thank you. So closing the deal, what are people's, see, I had a vision of closing the deal before I read the actual notes. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting what their sort of interpretation of closing the deal is. So tell me what closing the deal is. And by the way, it's super valuable for a client.
Perhaps satisfy any conditions.
Nice, good one. Anybody else? What else would you call closing the deal?
To setting up visits, access visits.
Access visits, that's a good one too.
Bank appraisal.
Bank appraisal, these are awesome, you guys, by the way, these are perfect. Anything else?
Keys.
Keys, sorting out the keys. Okay, anything
Preparing
else?
your clients for the move.
Helping the move plan?
And helping to keep in touch with your clients, just to make sure that they're doing okay, they're feeling updated, that you're still there for them, and checking in with them and seeing if they've connected with their lawyer regarding title. All of that's going smoothly.
That's an awesome one. Okay, anything else? So what happens from that whole scurrying time when your house is listed or your condo's listed or you're working with a buyer? It's very intense. You're seeing them all the time, you're talking to them, you're looking at things, you're putting in offers, it's like, and then all of a sudden you actually do the deal and then it's like dead. It could be a month, could be 2 months, could be 3 months. And then the love is like over already and it's even before the closing. So what you said there of helping the client, keeping him feeling updated and in touch is really a very special part of this whole thing.
Also checking in about their mortgage, like lawyer and mortgage.
Yes,
Is that okay? Is everything going well?
that's right in the course here. You cannot assume that the mortgage people or the lawyers, and I can tell you right now from personal experience, lawyers often do this last minute.
Absolutely.
It's like you send them the info and like, oh, that deal, isn't that closing? Like they're not on top of it. They're not as organized as you might sort of pretend to think. Okay, what else? There's a big one here that's missing. A goal of between sale and
Asking for a
closing.
referral.
Asking for a referral. This is the time where you're problem solving, right? So, have you ever heard of like blowing up a problem? You guys ever heard of that? So, say for example, the lawyer hasn't called them back. So they tell you that because you're in touch with them and you know that, right? So you go, why don't I help you with that? Then you can sort of say, okay, then you can follow up and go, wow, okay, I had to call them. I spoke to their assistant, I followed up again to make sure it was all going, and you blow it up and you actually talk about all the things you do about it, and then you're like, and I'm doing this to help you because we're here to, make sure that you're taken care of and all that kind of stuff. And so clients, when you just sort of say, oh yeah, I did that, it's kind of lost, kind of forgotten, who gives a crap, you really didn't do anything, they don't actually see that you've done anything. It's true, I'm telling you, when you don't actually say that you did it, they won't know. And they don't know what they don't know. So that whole thing of your friends talking to each other about, you know, you're in mummy class together, or you're picking your kid up from school and you're talking to somebody else and you're like, oh my God, I'm working with the referrals, I love them. They just call my lawyer because my lawyer's an asshole. It's awesome, I'm telling you, it's amazing. Or, for example, mortgage problem. This is the In Touch, feeling updated. The mortgage broker called me and the house didn't appraise out. Then you're sort of solving that other huge problem, right? So this is all of this sort of thing. Win future business. There's a big quote in here from Gary Keller, isn't it? Yeah, no, it's from, okay, who's gonna read this out? Vanessa.
The first part of the real estate sales process is the hard focused work of making connections and achieving agreements. The second part is the wide-eyed, vigilant guardianship of the transaction until it makes it to closing.
Right. So this is where we're in now. We're in the vigilant guardianship of the transaction until it makes it to closing. I had a problem a couple of years ago. It was a commercial residential property. Getting financing for commercial residential properties, Laura can probably tell you because you've done stuff like that. It's hard. And so I'm working really closely with the buyer's agent. I'm working really close with the mortgage people. You're working really close with everything. And I'm proud to say we got it closed. But I guarantee at the very same time, there was tons of deals that didn't get closed. There was a lot of shit going down. Do you remember a couple of years ago when the market was crashing and prices were changing and everybody was like freaking out? That's your job. Vigilant guardianship for your client. This is a hugely important part. I can tell you our deals close. There's tons that don't close though. I mean, it happens. Like for example, you know, probate doesn't go through and this wasn't, you know, you didn't anticipate it and all that kind of stuff. Stuff happens. You
Also,
gotta,
when they change the mortgage rules, they change them while you're in between.
that's
them.
correct. Right.
So you're shuffling things around, trying to get them closed.
It's absolutely true. This is a very, as I sort of told my team the other day, it's a very fluid business. Stuff happens all the time and every deal is different. Every single deal is different. But a person's emotions don't change. Like their need of the love and the taking care of, that doesn't change. Make it happen, know the process, systems equal. So I'm just gonna go to the actual course. Anybody have the course notes here? You do. I see the leads there. Okay, hold on. Very pretty. What page are we on?
13.
And what does it say? Well, I'm finding
And to
my
make it happen, actually those 4 things there is what's big with.
That's page
And then it, then it elaborates on it.
Yeah, I've got that as 13 on the digital copy.
Page 13. Okay, here we go. 12, on your way to payday. On your way to payday. So in this program, you guys have talked about lead generation, right? You've talked about, right, whichever course that was, one of the days, one of those Ignite sessions. You talked about making the appointment. You talked about the agreements. Now we're in the contract to close and payday. And we all like payday. One of the things that I try and remember though is it's not about the money and you don't get paid till after closing. So like this whole I did the deal in this firm does not mean you're paid. Does not mean you're paid, right?
Does not mean you're.
Does not mean you're paid. It's a very important part to remember that. Okay, know the process systems. Okay, know the process. So what sort of happens, so they call it, in the book they say it's something like, you know, you make an offer and that's called the buying process or the selling process, just to stop the confusion, because I was like reading it going, I thought the buying process started at like meeting the client. But anyway, it's actually the offer is what they call the buying process. So tell me what happens, how many deals have you done this year? Any deals?
0.
0. What about last year?
0.
Are you new?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Probably not the right person to ask, but it's okay, it's very exciting. What about you? How many deals have you done this year?
1.
1? How did it go?
That just closed actually on Friday.
Nice. So what happened, when was the offer? Tell us the exact experience. Because there's a lot of newbies here
Yeah.
that need to hear exactly what happened. So you made the offer when?
The offer was made in mid-January.
Okay. And was it a buy or a sell?
It was a sell.
You were the listing agent?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Nice. Okay. So a buyer brought in the offer, how did they bring it in?
So it's an email.
Okay,
So there was no offers. So it was listed actually last year, but it went on. I got an offer in mid-January.
okay,
I asked for a 48-hour irrevocable because it's truly one of the clients has dementia,
okay.
and the other one is an elderly lady. So there's 3 siblings who are making the decision on behalf of their parents, and the siblings don't get along. Now,
You see, this is very, see what I mean? Every deal is different. So we've got dementia, we've got elderly, we've got 3 siblings making decisions.
yeah,
That's a bit
and they don't
complicated.
get along.
Right, and they don't get along.
So it was
Real life.
So it's true, yeah. So 48 hours, and once I got the offer, and I don't know how it happened, but the realtor actually gave me 48 hours.
That was nice,
Which was great. So I obviously called to see if we could get another offer until,
right?
fortunately, we were able to get a second offer.
Oh, look at that.
It came in much lower.
Okay, can you just explain what happened there? Does anybody here understand that? So a 48-hour irrevocable means the offer, you make it today, and they've got 48 hours to decide. So it's open for the seller to decide.
Yes.
So the buyer can't do anything with it. It's now in the seller's hands. Then you called around.
I called around every agent that visited the home, and anybody that came in through the open house that had the contact information on file. I just went in and let them know that we have an offer, and if they're interested, to make sure that they come in with an offer by this time, which is when the first offer was going to expire. We managed to get a second offer,
Nice.
which came in way lower than the original offer, but that being said, it was a good push for us to negotiate and try to work with the first offer.
Good. So it's a delicate position here. So you don't want to piss off the first buyer, but you're doing your best to help your clients, your sellers. So you're sort of, this is a little delicate part. This is where you're keeping the relationships, keeping everybody informed, trying to be everybody's friend at this point. You're friends with both realtors, both offers. You're trying to get them both up at this point, probably.
Yeah.
Okay? Then what happened?
The original offer came in, and they got worried, obviously. So they came in with a few $1,000s more, $10,000 more, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not big, but I think my clients appreciated it. Whereas the second offer that came in, that was their maximum, and they were pretty confident that they had a strong offer because they've only been on the market for over 30 days, which in my opinion is not really that much of time even in the neighborhood that we were in.
Okay.
So,
Was it firm or conditional?
It was conditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened after they got the offers? Did they sign them?
So we decided to, the negotiation was verbal with the first agent. I didn't sign anything back. I asked him to bring back the offer with the new terms.
Right.
So we got a shorter closing date and got $10,000 more on the offer.
This is a huge point. This is a good little story. I'm really glad you're sharing it. So he verbally offered, which is not valid, you know, it could maybe not work out.
Yeah.
So you insist, instead of signing back to them, right, instead of the seller signing back to the buyer, you make them give it to you in writing.
Yeah. Now this all happened, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but this negotiation happened before I even reached out to my clients just to see if they could improve their offer.
Right.
At the same time, I told my clients, hey, we have an offer for $900,000. You know, I'm working to get a second offer, so I'm letting them know.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the agent already gave me an inclination that he will be coming back with a better offer, so that just shows that, hey, we're gonna work on your behalf to try to get you folks a better price.
Good. Okay, so then what happened?
So we got the amended offer, or the
Okay.
revised offer with the better terms, better price. Then I presented it to the clients. Obviously, between the first and the second revised offer, I was in touch with them saying, okay, guys, I think it looks like we're gonna possibly get a better offer, et cetera, et cetera. Just to show them I'm working on it. It's not like it just came on its own, right?
Yeah.
We got the second offer, they accepted the terms, they liked it, and we signed up. So
Okay.
it's conditional on inspection only.
Okay. And this is a house?
This was a house.
Okay. So it's conditional for how many days?
It was conditional for 5 days. Actually, it was conditional for 10, but that was one of the things that and I didn't notice that, to be honest, until I was signing back. And
You
before
were
I signed back, I called the guy, listen, sorry, I didn't notice that there's 10 days. You need more than 3, but I'll give you 5.
Right, okay.
So I did it, so it stops at the end of the week. It was, I think, Monday when I got the offer. And we did it for Friday, so that we're not waiting the weekend to find out what's gonna happen.
Right. just as a little FYI, technically it starts the next day, so,
Yeah. For
so
this,
it will be 4 days,
yeah.
Monday to Friday.
And
Okay, this is a good little scenario.
Just a question, you can get an inspection done in 3 days then? Like, that's okay?
You can get it in 24 hours.
I'm asking, yeah, no, because they're available and all that's good, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's different companies, right?
Yeah.
Like Carson Dunlop's huge, has tons of people, there's a lot of large companies out there.
Okay,
You might not get your preferred
Right.
inspector, you maybe have to go to number 2 or 3 or
okay,
something.
thank you.
There's 2 options right there on the counter.
There you go.
Superior and
Yeah, Superior's good,
How's that?
really good actually, we use them a lot.
That's it.
Okay, so you had the inspection, so then what happens with the inspection? So what do you do as a listing agent?
With for the inspection? I didn't do anything aside from giving access to the owner.
That's okay, that's what you did.
Yeah,
And you told everybody to leave the house?
yeah, it was vacant.
Okay, it was vacant.
That
So
was- that
these
was
are
easy-
things,
Easier one,
you don't really want the homeowner
in the house.
ideally, especially if there's issues with the family and it might just get dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they came in, and to be honest, I don't even think they did the inspection, which was, because the only thing they came back with was, oh, the washing machine has water in it. Looks like the washing machine's not working, please fix it.
okay,
Meanwhile, it smelled mold coming out of the basement.
right,
Like, there may have been water damage, I don't know, but
Right.
it's an old home, right, so.
right,
I'm
right,
just
right,
surprised it didn't go through the inspection, which I took it as a win,
right.
a fortunate win.
So what happens when they asked you to do the washing machine, what happens there?
So I called the clients and, okay, I'm not sure if you're aware, but apparently the only thing that came back from the inspection, which is good news, is that the washing machine has water in it. Fantastic. I don't know if it's something that you guys turned off the water before you left or whatever. And I checked as well. I couldn't see anything.
Okay,
And I couldn't find
so
out.
do you verbally agree, what do you do? Like, how do you just say, yes, we'll fix it before closing?
I told him.
You didn't actually write anything down?
Well, it's already in because the
in
shift
work.
panels and all that, right? It's already
Okay.
technically already included.
Okay,
So you need to get that done regardless of whether it's conditioned or not.
so in most offers, not all offers,
Yeah.
most offers, it says that all the fixtures and chattels will be in working order prior to closing. So that was just a little reminder
Yeah,
to the seller, that has to be fixed prior to closing.
absolutely.
Okay,
So I told them nothing to worry about. Worst case scenario, we'll get a new one for $500.
good.
So they are okay, no problem. We fixed it and everything closed.
And so what happened, we forgot about
Oh, we
receiving
got the
paperwork?
the waiver.
Yep.
So we got the waiver.
This is important, you guys. If you don't have a waiver, the deal is dead.
Yeah. So we got the waiver from the buyer agent. I acknowledged this receipt, sent it back to him, and it became a firm deal.
What about the deposit check?
So the deposit check was submitted to the office within 24 hours after I accepted the deal. And originally they came in with, I think, $20,000 deposit for $910,000 purchase, which I was not going to accept. I pushed back to get at least 5%, which I think these days should be common knowledge, but I guess it's maybe
It's not legal. It could
It's
be,
not, yeah, it could be anything I know, but
could be dollar.
yeah,
But in Toronto, it's mostly 5%.
that's what most agents I feel ask for.
Yeah,
So maybe it's just stuck in my head to always look for 5% from the, even as a buyer's agent, I'm always looking for at least 5%.
what it does is tie up their deposit on closing if things don't work out. Doesn't mean they're gonna keep that money, right? The 45,000 or whatever they gave you. It doesn't, it's not like, oh, there's a problem on closing, we're not closing, you get the 45. It could be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But it just shows that they're a little more organized and they're a little more tied into it all.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so,
we got the deposit and we got the waiver and then you just.
so then what happened? So this is what the course is
This
all
is the
about.
whole course of
So
it.
now you've done the condition, you got the deposit,
Yeah.
so that's one of the big things. And then what happens?
So then I started forwarding the 3 siblings information on what they should be considering before they move. So most of the stuff was packed in areas because it was a vacant home, so that was fortunate for us. A lot of the cleaning up was done before even putting it into the market. And it was an easier home to get staged just because of the fact that nobody's
Yeah.
living there. But in terms of utilities and whatnot, I just gave them a list of utility companies that they should consider calling. I gave them Canada Post for them to reroute their mail, which is, I think, something oftentimes overlooked.
This is a good point, you guys. That's huge value. right there, that's adding value to your clients, to make sure that their mail is being forwarded to the next place. That's as good?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We went in, we took out all of our staging material,
Yeah.
we just did one final check through to make sure everything that needs to be in order is in order. And that's it. And I started doing what I just sold donuts.
And, okay, this is good. So what about the mortgage and what about this? Access visits?
Yes, so access visits, they had one, the buyers had one access visit that they asked for, they didn't even use it.
Okay. Bank appraisal?
Bank appraisal, I followed up with the buyer's agent 2 weeks before and 1 week before to make sure that everything from a finance perspective is looking well. I made sure I followed up with the seller's lawyer to make sure they received all the documents that was required for the purchase. And if there was anything missing, to give me a call. Now, as you
Good
said,
job.
I called several times because A, they didn't get back to me, B, was the assistant, so I had to call and just double
And
check.
this is where you blow it up with your seller. You go, listen, nobody's been in touch. I'm a little bit worried about it, so guess what? I've been proactive. I've actually told them what to do.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, but this is, it helps.
Good point,
Then
yeah.
they'll be like, oh, you're amazing,
Yeah.
rock. Okay, bank appraisal. What about sorting out the keys?
Sorting out the keys was in the lockbox. I emailed them 3 days before, told them, hey, the keys in the lockbox if you need it for closing, because I knew they were going to meet with their lawyer. If you need it in the lockbox, I'll be removing the lockbox on the day before closing, so please try to get it out beforehand. So the
Okay, so that means, so a seller has to take their house key and give it to their lawyer, so their lawyer passes it on to the buyer's lawyer. That's how it does on actual closing with the money. So you took the key, they were able to take the key out of the lockbox, hand it to their lawyer, then their lawyer keeps it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you remove the lockbox prior to closing.
Yeah, and for sale signage also is overlooked by a lot of agents, I feel.
Good one.
Yeah, so
Sold sign is gone. Okay, and lockbox is off. You often have to keep the lockbox until the very end though, because people do access visits right up to the last day. Helping with the move, which you did, in touch, they were feeling updated, were they feeling updated? They were, you were talking about the mortgage and the lawyer. Did you refer them lawyers?
I gave them 3 lawyers to choose from, but they ended up choosing the lawyer that did their power of attorney, which is great.
And then what about this part? Asking for the
so that's-
referral.
So I didn't do it verbally. I have a thank you note that I send out
Okay,
to say thanks again. I'm looking not just for a referral, but I'm also looking for a Google review.
oh yeah,
So it's a 2-in-1.
so that's a review.
I congratulate them. I tell them that even though the home's sold, we're still in touch and they can reach out to me anytime they'd like. I'd appreciate if they leave a review online to help inform future buyers or sellers about who I am.
Did they do it?
Well, I'm sending it. I sent it out this morning.
Okay, so it's after, that's
It's
after.
after, yeah.
And what about a gift?
I guess this is the tough one. I have to send all 3 siblings.
This is a good thinking, like, what do you do?
Because they don't get along. The 2 brothers get along. The sister, they hate her. I don't know why.
Right. Okay, so what are you doing?
So I sent them each $100 gift card to the kid.
Oh, that was nice.
We could even all go together.
I know.
On
A little love going on
I'm
there.
emailing them individually. Hey, can I get your address, please? Can I get your address, please? So it was between 100 and 150.
Yeah.
Because really $100 they're still going to be paying out of pocket. But at the end of the day, I think it's a gesture that counts.
Yeah, and a note, a heartfelt, warm, loving note or something like that, handwritten. Okay, did everybody get something from this little experience? That was pretty cool. Good for you. I'm proud of you. You did a lot of this and doing that. That was awesome. And I think you really explained a lot. This is very real. This is a very realistic experience. I mean, obviously it happened, but this is, you went through all the process very well, so good for you.
Thank you.
Who else has had a closing lately?
Me and Ryan are on a team, and we had like 5 closes this year.
Okay, did
From
you have
last
any of your clients do
No,
it?
no.
So did you have to do any of these things?
Well, I do everything.
What do you do?
Well, I'm a licensed agent, but I'm also his assistant.
Okay,
So my days are full of just doing all that.
What
then
do,
some
tell us
stuff.
what you do, because this is a very,
Well, I mean,
licensed assistant is like the queen, king of the world here. You
Well,
do
like
a lot.
literally everything you just said.
This is what I'm
I
saying.
send everything to the lawyers, I follow up, I call the lawyers at the title search date, after the title search date, 2 days before the title search date, a couple days before closing, if you need anything from me, what can I do for you? Checking the lawyers with the keys again, send them movers, sending cleaners if we need to, sending them stuff about who to set your water up with, et cetera, if it's people moving about the country. Pick up the check with the lawyers, deliver to them on close, doing my request to get my signs taken down, do my request to get marketing and get my just sold things together,
Right.
do the posts, literally everything you just said.
And what about this part? Do you do the with the client?
Oh, I can't read, what's that say?
Sorry, I have bad writing. The client, is the client updated?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're doing a lot of the mortgage and the lawyer stuff. Are you actually talking to the client too?
Yeah, like, hey, we just talked to your mortgage person. Or, actually, we don't talk to the mortgage person, to be honest. We talk to your
You email,
lawyer.
text and all that stuff.
No,
you
we don't talk to the mortgage person.
Okay.
Like, I've never, like, only our mortgage guy. Like, if we're helping
Right,
somebody
right,
with
right.
somebody, then
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
But otherwise, like, we don't really get involved in that.
Okay. This is good too. It's important to know.
Yeah, no, I'm like, when we do their masterminds, like I work at Sotheby's, and we do masterminds, and a lot of times clients are always like, it's great until we close, and then the time when I sign the deal towards close, that's where there's always the drop off.
Right.
So just like you said, so
That's exactly right.
we make sure that we are constantly talking to them during that period.
Okay, good. And the clients are feeling loved, right? So asking for referrals, where, do you do that part, or do you do that
We
part?
just send thing out afterwards, like, hey, our business runs on referrals, I'm sure you Googled us, blah, 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 to get.
And what team are you on?
I work with Ryan Barnes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you send it, so it's by mail,
Email.
email. Okay. Lisa, you recently closed on your house, like a year ago, less than a year ago. What's your experience in all of this whole thing as a totally the other side of it? Do you remember the time between offer and close? There's access visits, for example.
Yeah.
There's lawyer visits. There's financing. I'm just reminding you of what happened.
I know.
If you look at all these things, you went through all
No,
this.
I know, I'm just going through, yeah, so honestly, we contacted our agent when we wanted to have the access visits.
And you cried on my shoulder and said, what have I done?
I
Yes.
cried to Julie, yes, because I sold my forever home. I still cry.
Yeah.
She says, get over it, dude.
But that's my job, as
Yeah.
the friend and the
Yeah,
client
so,
and the, you know.
but Julie and I have that relationship, so I relied on her there, and I have to say, our lawyer was amazing. She.
You have an amazing lawyer.
We do have an amazing
You
lawyer.
have an amazing lawyer. There is a difference in lawyers, just so y'all know.
Linda,
There's
she's
a,
amazing.
when you have that high trust, when you have the high trust with your realtor, and that high trust with your lawyer and your mortgage broker, it definitely works a whole heck of a lot.
And it makes Julie look amazing, referring that awesome lawyer.
That's a good point.
I was, Julie's client before.
Right.
She was a team member, so.
This is a very good point. This is fantastic, is that, you know, some of the stuff that you're doing, especially the mortgage broker who also makes a buyer's life a lot easier between the lawyer and the, you know, and for example, the floor planner and the photographer and the home inspector, all of those people, the stager, all of the people involved that they actually see you face to face, they're the people who represent you. So when I'm not there, Linda's there, or Allison's there, or Julian, or whatever. And I'm telling you right now, I get tons of compliments on my photographer. They all love the photographer. Julian, they love photographer. You know what I mean? So it makes us look good. So there you go. Okay, this is fascinating. I can't get over this. I love this shit.
So Julie, how do you ask for a referral between offer and closing?
That's a good question. How do you ask for it?
How do you specifically ask for it?
Well, we start it early in the process, right? Like at the consult.
Yeah.
We have it on our business cards and that sort of thing. But basically, is there any, you literally say it.
Just randomly?
Yes.
Hey, just
do you happen to know anybody else who's, happen to be looking? And it's not about you, right? It's not about you looking. It's about any friends or family. Like, for example, I just called a client yesterday about, James is listening in, by the way. And I just said, listen, we've got a couple new listings coming up in the neighborhood. It's a really good loft and it's a really good move-up house. Wondering if you know of anybody who's thinking about that might be interested in it. You know first. You're going to be the first one to know about that. So it's the same sort of thing. And with Lisa Lupiniak, who just closed her deal last year, I mean, I made you do a video testimonial too, right?
That's true too.
Out of her comfort zone, totally out of her comfort zone. Didn't want to do it, but that's
I
another thing
said,
I
for
asked.
you, Julie, I will do it.
But it's also, that whole thing of we build our business by referral, and I need you to tell people, because I can say, oh, great, and all that. They don't listen. That's not valuable to them, but the client actually says
And I think, saying it, I need you to, just say it, please
yes,
refer me.
yes.
It's easy to say, oh yeah, Julie's great, but not, refer her.
Yes.
Or it's, people are happy, but they're not saying, I got the agent for you, so we need to
Right.
reiterate it.
Regarding helping families with mortgage brokers and lawyers, I've really seen it as we're doing the close with a recent sale with a first-time home buyer with Leah. So I'm now working with another first-time home buyer couple, and they're resistant to, they say they kind of have their own lawyer, although they took a number. They say they've got the mortgage with the bank. And I gotta be honest, I don't feel as confident, as secure, not having them working with our people who I really trust. And, you gotta, I guess, let go of that, but it's an interesting comparison.
It does help, but you basically have to
Yeah, you have to.
just
It's their choice.
keep talking to them about it.
Yes.
Like, what does your lawyer say? Literally.
Yeah.
What does your lawyer say? Oh, what does your mortgage broker say?
Yeah.
Oh, what are they talking about today? Like, you need to find out what's going on.
Can I ask, do you put your business partners, as it's called, on HomeKeeper?
Oh, the tradespeople that we use? Oh, they're all on it.
They are.
Yeah. I'm cool with that. I want them to get more business. You know what I mean? But HomeKeeper, they have to pay. Or something like that. They asked me the other day, somebody asked me the other day, the window cleaner guy. I've invited them all to it because I want people to find them. I mean, I get calls for landscapers, calls for everything, a lot. And the window guy said, oh, HomeKeeper told me I have to pay $500 a year or something like that. And I was like, I know KW pays for
Ours.
our,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on something that you said. You said, do I randomly ask them for referrals? It's the opposite. You intentionally ask them for referrals. It's completely premeditated and put into the
System?
presentation. Yes.
Yes, it is.
So that you get really comfortable with it and it's very natural. For
Live
some
your life
reason-
by design.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing back there, but I'm
He's our tech ambassador.
and he's a milk drinker from the fridge, but he's drinking these little things.
So you're reminding me of like those.
We're doing shots.
He's doing shots.
No.
6-year-old.
That's okay.
It's like
So
the convenience store the kids from high school.
You hungry there, bud? Why don't you go full stop?
I'm broke.
I know.
Go
Motivated.
get money.
Motivated. That's a very good point.
Yes.
So one of the things they call this whole process is a project manager. And we've actually been talking about on our team how, I think what people now are looking for is that project manager for the whole entire process, not just, right from the beginning. Like they want, you probably see this on your team, is that the clients want it all. They want somebody to help them organize the cleaners, the stagers, and this is exactly what's going to happen, and you're taking care of all of it. And I don't want to deal with any of it. And as a busy professional myself, I like that if a professional does that for me too. They call and do all that stuff, so.
And just remember, you hire those people. You're not that person.
Correct.
Yes.
In an ideal world.
Yes.
But you gotta start somewhere, right? I used to stamp my own envelopes and write out my own labels and
Oh, but not clean houses. That's what I mean.
clean houses.
Yeah.
I bring paint houses. Yeah.
Okay, Kathy shovel.
You've literally, like, I've done tons of that.
Little plug for Command, the new pipeline, they have like all the different stages, and now you can edit the stages and add checklists into each stage. So if you have like, you're like, okay, I have to have pictures done before I run the exclusive, then I have to have the stager come in and the photographs, you can like set that all up so you never miss a step again.
See, there you go. And I actually wrote, oh, shit. I wrote out, it's actually in my computer here. I wrote out our steps for our, like, a buyer sold step. So, and actually it's an interesting sort of thing. So Command will help with this because it's in our CRM, our database thing. So we found, and it's kind of confusing and I'm not sure how programs use it, and you as the assistant or sort of head of your, whatever you're doing, you understand that every closing is different, right? So if you say it's a 30-day close, 30-day close doesn't really make sense. So, because what if it's a 40-day close or a 35-day close or 50-day close or something like that. So what we've done is we've done an immediate plan, so a buyer doesn't offer and then that's the plan. And then you do a 10-day before closing plan. So then you could do it's -10, -8, -7, -6, -5. So then you for sure hit closing on the right day. And then you do a plan for after closing. So this is closing day and this is closing day and after. So we actually have to 3 plans for one buyer or the same for a seller. So I don't know how do your team do it? What's your MD?
We're constantly thinking about these checklists, like it's his big thing. So we use Gmail Folio,
Okay.
which is awesome, because
Mhm.
it keeps all the clients and everybody. Then Sotheby's has a folio that we use. We've tried like contactually, all the above. And then we've just made literally check sheets that I keep in the folders of all the deals. We do one paper, just so we have it in the deal, and then we have one that lives online.
Yeah, and that's how I've always pretty much done it. Now I only do it online, but the checklist on paper, like people like Tally on our team, she doesn't carry around a little laptop and all that crap. So you're more of a paper person, and sometimes paper works, so. But ours is like, so other things that go on in here, for example, there's the deal checklist, so you want to make sure that, you know, the deal checklist is, you know, the trade sheet, all of those things. These are the things that you didn't talk about, but these are the things that also have to be happening. We have something we call deliver cookies to the client's work. So we deliver cookies as soon as the deal goes firm. Just as a fun sort of, because nothing's going to happen until closing, right? So there's that 30, 60, 90 days that you want something fun to happen. So, and we send it to their work because why do we send it to their work?
Other people see.
Other people see it, then they talk about it and they share it, right? More fun. And then we set them up on MoveSnap. Has anybody heard of MoveSnap here? Anybody use MoveSnap?
They targeted me on Facebook, MoveSnap.
Well, we do it, so every buyer, so basically they get their own little checklist, like buyers have the option of using it, and it's basically a checklist for buyers and reminders. It's an online
Did you do an online testimonial for MoveSnap? Is that you or is that somebody else? Never mind.
What did I,
Did you do a testimonial for MoveSnap?
maybe,
Yeah.
because we do use it.
I'm trying to remember if I cited it. That's what I cited.
I didn't do it like a visual or anything
Oh,
like
okay.
that, a video one, but we use it a lot. So we have to, for example, on a listing, we have to change the website. You know what I mean? You have to change it from active to sold. You have to change it on the MLS from active to sold. You know, like there's all of these little things. Like, so these are sort of the big ones, but there's a lot of little stuff that happens here. And this is why you have it. So we have the 6 degrees of separation letter. That's the, you know, the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon letter.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? What? You don't know 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, but what do you,
Oh.
what does the letter say?
Yeah,
Who do you know that you'd like to?
basically, it's the same.
You're,
sort of
you're
thing.
just 6 degrees away from the person that you want to do business with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you just have to keep sort of.
Yeah.
There's also the reticular activator letter. Do you know what that is? So that's
You meet
the,
people.
yes. It's the, you know, when you're pregnant, all of a sudden you see everybody who's pregnant.
When you buy
When
a black Jeep,
Yeah,
everyone's got a black Jeep.
Yes. And when you're renovating a house, all you see are ads for renovations. You go to the shows, you talk to people, all you do is, but once you're done a reno, like I did a reno a couple of years ago and then it's out. But for that year or whatever, you're like in it. And all you care about are the taps that you're getting and all that, and then you're talking about all that, and then you notice it everywhere. And you go to people's houses, and now you don't. So it's like, it's a time in that person's life when they're buying, and they're super active, and that's when they'll give you referrals. That's the most likely time. Same thing, like my sister's asking me about mortgages right now, that's all she talks about, mortgage. But you know what, that's another 5 years, so she'll be doing it now, then it'll be over, we won't talk about it again for probably 5 years, and then it'll be out again. My sister has a truck, she bought a truck for her 50th birthday, it's like super cool. Now all I see are white trucks everywhere, actually.
Is that my sister?
I know, I do. I saw some yesterday, I looked at them. Because you're like, oh, there you go, you see, so
It's true.
cool. That's your reticular activator.
Sorry, what do you call it?
Reticular activator. It's a thing in your brain that, it's a medical
Yeah.
term. So we send movie tickets, for example. Another little popcorn movie, something to entertain you prior to closing. We
Home Depot card.
send a closing, we send a Home Depot card, we send a closing package, you know, which will have some of this utility stuff and reminder when your closing is, or reminder what the lawyer says, and reminder all that kind of stuff. We put their new address on our database, like, that's sort of a big one too, right? So you have to put their new address in there. Sometimes they're moving out of town, all that kind of stuff. You put their house anniversary in, their new house anniversary, so then all of a sudden it's gonna come up every year. These are just the little stupid things that add up. That's why we have it in a list. We put their lawyer information in the program. We obviously send the lawyer information. We remove them from receiving some of our active listings, like you take them off prospect matches, you take them off the open house lists, you know, all that kind of stuff. You send them the full copy of the offer so that they have the full copy, because sometimes they don't have it. What can I say? You add the closing title dates to agent office, that's part of the last 10 days. We add them to an Excel spreadsheet, which means that we have our totals for the year, and we know all the clients, and we know how much money we're making, we track all that kind of stuff. We put their birthday information from FinTrack, and we put it into our program, so their birthdays come up every year. Like, there's a little stupid little things that you do. We schedule in the correct closing date. We ask for the waiver, we ask for all that sort of stuff. We used to do like a moving thing, a moving card. But technology has sort of changed. We used to send gold labels with people's addresses and return addresses and stuff like that, but people don't really mail things anymore. So, you know, things have sort of changed along. There's ways of sending to their database, you know, the we've moved sort of stuff, or even examples of something they can send out to their Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, you can put together like a little picture for your team, like little picture of what they bought, and then we're moving, like a little announcement that they can put out. Again, it's just an added touch, lovey-dovey sort of stuff. Closing day in touch, you know, there's all the stuff for the MCA, all the paperwork to them. Like, for example, we have to tell them that it's closing and the lawyer and blah, 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 blah. We talked about, so then there's the gift afterwards, you know, all that kind of stuff. Sold signs on, what else? All that. There's like a lot of crap. But, so that's why you have lists, and this is why you sort of have up-to-date lists. These are, we're doing well so far. Any questions?
One comment to go to this, to your point,
Yes.
is that like, when I work with Ryan, he's just constantly like, we need our checklist better, we need our so it's always like a constant improvement to find exactly what you're doing each day.
Yeah.
For each.
And what I just sort of said about how to get them to put it on social media, about their new house, and, you know, sharing it. We also do that when they're listing it. So we also want them to send out a social media thing from their social media to sort of present it. So those are sort of newer things that people can do. Okay, what's going on in the pro course? Are we totally off topic?
No.
Okay, there's a reason why nobody's using that. I'm good, I've got my pages here. Okay, what page are we on? 15 out of 35, sorry about that. Okay, we've got the rejection, we've got the inspection.
We're still on 15.
Oh, I'm just joking. Okay, contract to close checklist, I think we did a pretty good job with that. Let's review some of the ones that they suggested. Submit offer, deliver deposit money, schedule structural termite inspections. What about a survey? What do you guys say about surveys? Do you need a survey? Do you need a survey?
Well, I'm about to go pick up a survey right after this, so.
There you go. Okay, so what's that all about?
We're just adding it up to our MLS listing
And you're picking it up from where?
for the buyer, our seller's house.
Okay, so what's the benefit of a survey versus no survey?
Well, I mean, you could see if there's a random shed that was built on the property and you look on the survey and it's not there, you can potentially see, make sure all the permits and stuff are correct. You can make sure, you know, the neighbor didn't decide to just build a fence on your lawn, et cetera.
Right. Now, if it's not up to date, is yours up to date, do you think?
I don't know, yeah, we'll see when I get there.
Yeah. So there's a range of surveys. There's sketch of surveys, which are basically, you know, it's 20 by 100 foot lot, and there's an old garage that may or may not be actually existing there still, but it's very sketchy. We're talking about like a few lines, square house, lot lines. But it doesn't show the neighbors, it doesn't show fences, it doesn't show garages, it basically shows nothing. And then it goes all the way up to brand new. So whenever you're putting in an offer, make sure you, like an up-to-date survey has to be like practically yesterday. So it's not very often that happens, unless you're getting permits or something like that and you've had to get a brand new survey. A survey, what do lawyers use instead of survey now? Do you know? If you're a buyer and you're buying a property and there's no survey.
Would it be like something on like MPAC where you can like look, you can like download or print out like all the like the details, right? Like
Legal
the lot
description.
size, yeah, like all of that.
I learned the hard way last year that MPAC is inaccurate. It is
Sure.
inaccurate. I was taken to RICO, big complaint,
Oh, wow.
inaccurate. I didn't know that.
Oh.
Me, 25 years, 26 years in the business.
Right.
Inaccurate, do not put your license on them. Like, you can use it as a guideline, but their information is not up to date. For example, things like front pad parking, when it says it's got front pad parking, like Holly on our team, her house says it has parking. Like, it does not have parking. And MPAC says it's got a driveway. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's inaccurate.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe it's accurate, but it's not always
So
right.
where
Do
did
not
they
use
get-
MPAC as a good,
Where did they get the information
Yeah.
then?
exactly. I don't know.
Like did it zoning
It's
change?
the city of Toronto.
Okay.
It's their records that apparently are not totally cohesive all the way through. A surveyor would probably know better, but surveyors cost $2,000 or something like that.
Won't they do a title search and then?
They
and
do a
then
title
you
search
get
and they'll
the-
know.
And then you get the insurance, right? So if they
That's
make
where
a
it is.
mistake-
Thank you, Laura. This is what I was looking for. It's called title insurance. So I had a client a couple of years ago, bought a house. The garage, everything was renovated and all built, but it turns out the garage is like 6 inches on the wrong side of the thing. But nobody knew it because the permit never got closed. The deal closed, but the permits never got closed with the city because lawyers don't do this stuff anymore. It's very interesting. They don't do title searches, they don't do anything. They all rely on title insurance. So basically it got discovered later on that it was off the property and title insurance paid for a surveyor to get it done, for them to change title, for them to do everything. And we had to sell the house, of course, with this cloud over title. It was ugly, but thank goodness we had title insurance for it. So this is what people do now, is basically they're counting on title insurance. That's why all buyers, you always sort of recommend that they get it, because kind of lawyers don't do a lot of what they used to do. It's not old fashioned anymore. They just sort of go, insurance, it's sort of like it doesn't happen that often, so it's not worth all those searches. It's better just get them to buy title insurance, and sometimes they might need it. It's rare they need it. I mean, honestly, in many, many, many years and many, many, many deals, once or twice it's happened. I had another time where there was a fence. That's okay. I sold the house to them. It was a nice long lot. It was like gorgeous, 175 feet long or something like that. And it went all, and then there was a fence, and then there was the neighbors. And it turned out that 20 of the feet at the back were not our clients. They were those people, but their fence was 20 feet shorter. Anyway, my clients went after me, And again, because they're my friends, it's not like, and we're still really good friends and all that stuff, it would be like Lisa going after me. As your job, you need to be accurate, and we didn't have a survey and we didn't have it. It's okay, we all got sorted out, but, you know,
Did they buy title insurance, your client?
they bought title insurance.
So the
And they got
buyers
it covered.
buy title insurance to cover
Correct.
any of those things.
So
Nice.
what,
Yes.
like, happened, like,
They
is there any
ended up with-
financial compensation for the loss of property?
They got the property.
Oh, they ended up getting the
Yeah,
property?
they ended up getting it. So basically, because the fence was that far, it was adverse possession or whatever, should have been that many years, it was an estate sale and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I did not, you know, do probably enough research into figuring it out. It's
Like,
just that you thought the fucking fence was whatever.
yeah, so you
How
make sure
did,
you
how
get
did
the,
it come up?
for sure.
When they're searching it later, they were doing their landscaping and they got surveyed.
Right.
So,
Ah.
yeah, because like, it's true, it's not something you would normally go out and
Yeah.
like measure out the back,
I don't.
you know, you're like, yeah, that looks like
Looks
170 feet.
Looks
But
good.
that's- Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the lawyer,
So this is like real life stuff that
does
happens.
the lawyer say, do you want to purchase title insurance, or do you say to
The
your clients?
lawyer usually suggests it.
Okay,
And it costs money.
right.
So it's not cheap for a buyer, and it's gone up. So it's like all insurance, it keeps going up, but, and the more expensive the property, the more expensive the title insurance.
Nice.
So that's how it kind of works. It's on a sliding scale. Very similar to buying a more expensive house, more expensive car or something like that, your insurance is a little bit more.
Right.
But definitely it saves the day.
Is it, what is it, 500?
280 up to 500.
Yeah, 500.
And
Yeah,
then
that-
100,000 for every additional, sorry, $100 for every
$100,
additional
that's right.
$100,000.
So it keeps adding up.
Yeah.
So it could be $1,200 or something like that. But it's for the life of the property,
Sure.
and it works, so it's pretty good. I mean, I'm not selling it or anything like that, but it does, it has saved like my own client's situation twice, so there you go.
So how did you have avoided the whole situation? I guess you got the measurements from either MPAC or from previously listed.
Yeah, and you can actually get, just so you know, you can also get surveys online.
Protect your boundaries.
Yeah, so there's a, I don't know the website,
Protect your boundaries.
protectyourboundaries.com or something like that. .ca or something like that. And it's like $300, $200, somewhere in there, and you get a survey that could be out there. It was a very unclear situation with that long lot. I didn't know, it got discovered years later.
Yeah.
So, and it was all because, again, it's been years of neglect and years of people not paying attention to it, and why didn't they do something about it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody did.
So if you were to turn back the hands of time, would you have gone that survey, or would you, like, could you see yourself making that same instant mistake again?
You do have to be more careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm more vigilant about than ever is closing permits before closing. Because that's come up
Yeah.
a ton of times for us.
Yeah, I almost had my first house almost didn't sell because we had an open permit that
Yeah.
we didn't know about. Like, we were young and it was just a long story, but we didn't, yeah, so they could have, the deal almost.
Yeah.
fell.
Deals fall apart often with that because what happens is building permits, like, there's new rules that come in, and so they have to come back and check it all. There's new permit guys, there's new everything. And that's where the problems happen, where the new guy's like, this is not done right, you're gonna have to redo it
The building code.
to the up-to-date code,
Yeah.
or I didn't see what happened, I can't tell what's in the ground, you know, that sort of thing. You have to tear it all out, like, it's happened quite, and it's very often that that contractors do not close permits. You pay them the full amount, and then 5 years later, you find out that it's not
Yeah.
closed. It
I've done-
happens a lot.
I've done open houses on homes that have been renovated, almost all new, and a lot of educated realtors come in and say, are all the permits closed? And
So that's what you put in your offer.
Yeah, the listing agent says, yes, all the permits are closed. You can say,
So, but we had a recent problem where we put it in the offer because our clients had had that experience. All the permits closed, okay, so they had to close all the permits because there was one that was still open, but they had to fix it in a way that wasn't very nice. Then it turned out they didn't actually get permits for some stuff. That's where the other problem came in. So again, every damn situation is different. So they didn't get electrical permits, which meant that it wasn't up to code. So my client bought this totally renovated house, but there was no electrical permit, so now they have electrical problems. And it's not their, like, they have to pay for it. Because the inspector didn't find it. It's like, so this is where the good relationship with your client and taking care of them through the whole process and them feeling like they love you, this is the most important part. And they trust you and you will figure it out. So last year about that whole thing with MPAC, and I mean, my clients had to build a driveway, they had to do all sorts of stuff. But we sorted it out, the lawyer helped me, and we did it together, and my client wrote me a rave review. And it was a huge problem, like a massive problem, and the deal got closed. They got paid, I got paid, we all got paid, but I'm telling you, it's hand-holding, it's doing whatever it takes. It's super stressful for everybody. They were out of town, out of country, I'm dealing with all that, you know, stuff happens. But again, it's all about the relationship. Okay, receive payment from your buyer, from your lawyer. How does the lawyer thing work? Who here knows what happens with money? You do.
No, I don't know.
Okay. What happens with the money? So
it goes in trust.
What goes in trust?
The deposit
Yes.
with the lawyer until they get possession.
Hold on there. Hold on. Where does the money go? In trust too.
You mean with the
The deposit.
The deposit goes into a special account, the brokerage.
Trust account.
Discount.
Not the lawyer.
Okay.
Yes.
And then once they get possession, it gets released to the seller.
This is good. This is good. It's like, I feel like I'm in exams. I love it. Okay, who else? Do you know what happens with the money?
No, not exactly.
Okay,
Sent to the lawyer.
Kathy, what happens with the money?
Yeah, it goes to the first cooperating brokerage for the commission.
Okay, these are all good answers, but everybody's sort of
Wrong?
beating around the bush here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is the balance of the money
Yeah.
deposit, so it's $1 million and you give them 50, so 950 goes to the lawyer from the buyer's agent, buyer's lawyer.
Yeah.
And what happens to that extra 50 is the lawyer, so our brokerage, for example, sends the lawyer our commission statement that says, okay, so the buyer's agent's getting this and the listing agent's getting this and there's HST, so we actually need more money. That's basically what happens. And then the lawyer has to transfer money to our brokerage and then our brokerage pays everybody out. So our brokerage does not give the lawyer back the money.
Yeah.
What they do is they get permission from the lawyer to release it, and usually they need a little bit more money because the 5% doesn't cover it because it's HST too.
Mhm.
So it does get, that's kind of usually how it happens, but if there's enough, like there's a balance, so for example, they give us $100,000, there's more than enough to pay everybody off, and then we give that money back to the lawyer, and then the lawyer disperses it, essentially.
And once that lawyer gives it to the selling lawyer, that's literally when it's okay to pick up the key, correct?
When the buyer's lawyer,
Gives it to the seller's lawyer.
Correct.
And they got it in the bank,
they exchange
the key.
money and key.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually it's, well, they have to transfer the money.
Yeah.
So how does the buyer's lawyer get the money? Where do they get the money from? Like the 950?
The lender.
The bank.
The lender, and who else?
And the buyer from the down payment amount?
The buyer. So usually the buyer pays more than 5%, so, you know what I mean? So it could be from the buyer, or it comes from the proceeds of their sale. So if a buyer is buying something else, it comes from their sale to the next sale. So there's a little bit of a domino effect. So let's sort of work this through. So, Karen, you're selling your house and you're buying this house, right? How exciting is that?
Next door.
So this is 600,000 and this is $1.2 million. Okay, so this is interesting. So let's say you've got a $200,000 mortgage on it. So you've got $400,000 that you want to put towards your new house. So what happens here?
Okay. So we put a deposit in.
So the buyer has given you a deposit, and it's with KW. And how much is your deposit?
5%.
Yeah, how much is that? 600,000.
30 days.
Dudes, you guys really need to figure this out faster. Yes, it's 30K. This is all part of your job. You gotta know your little numbers here. Okay, 30K, go. Then what happens? So the buyer has given our brokerage 30,000. Then what?
They have to get a mortgage.
Yes? How much is that gonna be?
So
Just
for
guess.
the remaining amount, so it would be 570,
Okay.
because they're buying it for 600K, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said. Okay, so 570 would be the mortgage.
That's a big mortgage for 5%, but that's okay. Are you allowed to do that? 5% down?
I mean,
First time buyer.
Yeah.
It's
With the new budget yesterday?
I know.
Something happened there?
Well,
It's only
5% on
35,
the
yeah.
first 500 and then 10% on that 70K.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah.
Pretty serious. Okay, that's all right. We're just going with your example here.
okay.
570. So they're giving, and where does this money go to?
So the deposit goes to the brokerage, and the mortgage goes to bank.
The mortgage goes to, so this is your buyer, right? And you're the seller. So you need this money to sell your house, like they're buying the house from you.
Yeah, so they should
So-
give them all to me,
Who do they give it to?
Well-
Like technically.
my lawyer, and
Okay.
then my lawyer gives it to me.
Well, your lawyer then, how do you buy this house? Then what happens now? So
So then they like do a deposit and then like a promise to give the funds once it's complete.
So they give the 570, so it's not actually 570, how much is it? Now you get your calculator out.
HST.
It's the HST, it has to go back to our brokerage, right? So what's that, 5,000? I don't know how much it is. How much is it?
5,700.
It's 30%. What's 13%?
Of 600.
Seven.
30,000.
Oh, of 30,000. 13% is 3,900.
Okay, so they're gonna give 3,900 to KW to pay out the realtors.
Okay.
Okay, and so then the 570 minus the 4,000, so 566, 100 or whatever, is going to go to your lawyer, who's gonna take all that money and now your house is sold.
Pay off the mortgage there.
And then they have to they're gonna pay off the mortgage, well, they're probably gonna port the mortgage, right? So you're gonna port this mortgage over here. So you've got $200,000 mortgage still. So now you owe $1 million. You're putting $400,000, well, it's not 400 because it's actually 566, 100, right? So you're gonna be taking 566, 100. So how much of a mortgage do you still need? And this is really what happens. So you're gonna add to your mortgage.
633,900.
So your total mortgage is going to be, is that right?
Is it?
No?
Why does the 400 become 560?
1,200.
Because you're porting your mortgage over, you're taking the mortgage.
Oh, I
over,
see.
Right. So then, so you're keeping this as your mortgage, 200,000?
433,900.
Yeah, okay, 433. So 43,900 plus your 200, so your total mortgage is gonna be 633, is that right? And then you get to buy this house. So my point of my story is it takes a little bit of time to get this organized to get here and then to get here. So it's a big shit show on the day of closing. Because your lawyer's trying to get the money from the buyer, and what if the buyer has a condo? So then they've got to sell their little condo, and they need their buyer to get the money. Do you see what I mean? So then it's like leapfrog to leapfrog to leapfrog, and this is why lots of people bridge finance. So why I'm explaining all this to you guys is so that when you're talking to a client, you actually can see this example, and you're speaking to them and going, okay, when we're writing up our offer, okay, you just gonna warn you, it could be very late in the day, because it's gonna take your lawyer to get a little bit of money, get all this sort of thing, finance and your mortgage ported over and all that shit. I mean, it should be instant because it's all in a computer, but they still have to wait. The banks take the very last second to approve lending, so, and very last second to move the money over. So they're not,
Because they want to get the extra interest out of it.
they do it literally on closing at noon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They don't do it like the night before or anything, they wait until everything is all happening here. So it's a little bit complicated for you to close on the same day as your buyer. So often people bridge finance, right?
Okay.
That make sense?
Do you recommend closing on a Thursday because of all that? So that if anything goes very,
It's funny, that my client said that to me the other day, they're like, I really wish we hadn't closed on a Friday, and it's true.
Yeah.
What if they don't, they're like,
Tomorrow, Friday's not a good day.
Friday's not a good day, and the last day of the month is not a good day.
But everybody, Linda says so many closings happen on Friday.
They do.
She says she never, like, ever gets to go home early on
I know,
a
but they
sunny
wish
day.
they didn't, they wish they didn't,
Oh,
that's
okay.
all. Wishing and actual is not really reality.
What percentage of your clients that are buying and selling close both on the same day? I know it's hectic, but what percentage try and avoid that bridge?
It's their client, it's the personality.
Okay,
If you don't mind it going late and you're paying extra for your truck to be waiting, you know, because you might not get the keys till 5 or 6 o'clock at night, then, in fact, it happened with me and my partner where we actually had to hold the truck overnight.
yeah.
So, because it wasn't all organized and the sellers weren't out, they were supposed to be moved out, but they hadn't moved out yet, so
Yeah,
it's messy. It's
Yeah.
all messy.
yeah,
If that
Okay.
happens where the seller hasn't moved out when they're supposed to.
Technically, they're supposed to pay for your mortgage, your movers.
Yes.
But it's also emotional, like it's traumatic.
Sure.
yeah, things have to pay for your movers.
Technically, but good luck.
Technically,
You've already given them all your money and you closed the deal, so, oh, you owe me another $500 and they'll be saying, I know, I'm really, really sorry.
Technically based on what, is it in a contract somewhere? I've never heard of it.
It's in the contract that they have to be out by a certain time.
By 6, yes.
Yes.
Or I have to close by 6.
That close.
It has to close by 6.
That's
Usually it closes like at 3 or
Yeah.
4, so technically they have to be out by 3 or 4.
Yeah.
The 6 is
It's just-
only if it closes at 6, which is almost impossible because the banks have already closed.
Yeah, but,
Five
and-
o'clock.
yeah.
And, you know, so for sure it's by 5.
Interesting. This is
Yeah.
confusing.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Tell me what you're confused about.
All of it.
Am I keeping you guys waiting? Oh, no, we're still good, right? We're at 5 to 3? Is that what we have here?
I have a few more minutes.
You got a couple more minutes? Okay, who can explain this better than me?
Well, I'm meeting with my lawyer this week, so I'll get him to like help me
Good.
do all this stuff too, so.
Because there's other things like statement of adjustments.
Yeah.
The best thing is to actually sell your house, and then you
Go through it. The thing is, when you're speaking to a client, you have to feel confident understanding this. You're not necessarily suggesting one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's totally their thing, because bridging has its own pluses and minuses. So the problem with bridging is that you technically own 2 houses now. Now you're taking a risk, right? What if they don't close on your, so you've bought the other house, means that you now still own your own current house, and if those buyers don't complete for some godforsaken reason,
Yeah.
there is always a risk. That's a high risk thing. Plus you're paying for, okay, wait, I shouldn't tell you guys. What are you paying for when you're bridge financing?
Interest,
Interest of what?
interest on the mortgage of both houses.
Yes, and what else?
I'm not sure.
Insurance.
Insurance. What else? When you own a house or condo, what else are you paying for on a daily basis?
Facilities.
Oh, maintenance fees.
Utilities,
Yeah.
maintenance fees, taxes, everything. So you're paying 2 hydros, 2 gases, two taxes, 2 everything. So yes, for a week, it's not that expensive. A month, ask Lisa, you know about this. Like, these things happen and you're just like, a month of utilities and a month of taxes, a month of maintenance fees, it's adding up pretty fast. It's pretty fast.
Yeah, and those are the other considerations when you bridge, so.
That's correct.
We honestly did not fully think about.
Right.
Can you not take insurance, or if you do the bridge, to cover if it doesn't close?
Well, Gladys might have mentioned something like that.
But
actually.
isn't
But I'm
that,
not
wouldn't
100%
the
sure.
deposit cover that?
What?
The cost of,
If the buyer fell out, their
yeah, like if
deposit
your
would
house
cover.
didn't close, wouldn't the deposit, like you try and sell your house as quickly as possible, but the deposit would cover the extra expense?
But it doesn't get released very quickly.
No.
But yes, it is a
Like
damage.
it's a damage, yes.
It's considered a damage.
And then, isn't there another?
But you're going after them for the money, right? Do you see what I mean? Like, it's not,
Are you going after them even if it's in the, like you've got the deposit and trust?
yeah, but good luck getting it out in a timely manner. It means that you're the one holding
Okay,
it
you're right,
for a while.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then, just for my own clarification, so there's another alternative, which is to close and get out the day before, but then you have to store your stuff overnight and find a hotel or stay with family.
Correct.
Right?
And pay the movers to hold it in their
Yeah.
truck for a day.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So another realistic example was actually last summer. Tyler had a deal closing and he was away, so I was covering him. And we did an access visit the night before because our lawyer is very into this access visit the night before, and clearly the house was not ready to go. And so the day of closing, I had to go physically and make sure. And Linda didn't want to pass the funds on until we knew for sure that they were out. And I get there and they're not out. And their agent, who's a saint, who's in the KW office, she used to be in this office and she's now at the one at Young and Lawrence, she was in there packing all of their stuff for them. And I was there moving all of their stuff
What
onto
was their plan?
They were just not 100% there. Like, they
Oh,
were
okay.
not, it was a single guy who was older,
Right.
and it wasn't, just didn't have shit together.
Okay, so that's an agent going above and beyond, both of you
Yes.
guys.
Well,
Okay,
I wasn't
second.
doing nearly what she was doing. She was like spending the whole day moving stuff out and cleaning the kitchens and wrapping it all up. And we were all trying to get everything out because our buyers were freaking out at this point.
Sure.
You know, it's their dream home, it's their first home, and you know, all this emotional stuff, and their lawyers saying you can't pass it on, and now we can't close, and then we're gonna be in default, and then,
Ugh,
it's all very complicated.
brutal.
Yeah, it was. So, it's interesting what happens. It's just very interesting out there. Fun, this is why you're in the business.
Yeah.
Keeps you, on your toes, right? You get the families that don't get along, which, is another one. Are you leaving?
Sorry.
Have a good show.
I love it. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
What else have I missed? What's next on our list? We've got half an hour. Do you want to sort of stand around, walk around and do a little twirl? Get up, up, up. Everybody stand up. Anybody need to go for the bathroom break? Anybody need water? Anything like that? This was an interesting little example, eh? Now what happens? Exactly what happens. Funny how it puts your brains up, right?
And Julie, that's why it's so important though to be in touch during the whole process, even with the buyers, like check in, or, with the seller, sorry. How's the moving going? Did you get stuff packed? Do you need our help, I know it's a hard time, like let us know.
I do like,
Absolutely.
going the night before. It's a
Yeah.
great thing, because you
never know.
The flood.
Could be a
Vacant
flood.
house.
Well, we've had, it's crazy what happens between like around listing and closing, like furnaces break, air conditioners break, floods happen, washers turn, stop working, like it's bad luck. Like we have a client, the fireplace isn't working now, and it's like, all of this stuff, it's, I don't know, Murphy's Law or whatever. Okay, so Your turn, be a problem solver. Work in pairs to identify as many solutions to these problems as you find. Okay, so, can you guys pair up here? I'm gonna give you some problems. You got them right there, you don't have the answers, do you? I see, no answers.
Which problems?
We're on page 19.
Oh, in fact,
Oh, you do have the answers.
oh,
Don't look at the answers.
all right.
Close that
No, I
up,
think
you
it's
see.
a checklist.
I thought I had
19.
the empty one. But this is, oh, that's 2015.
This is the task.
What's the task, isn't it?
Contract to
Oh,
close
really?
issues. Yeah. Oh, you filled it in already.
No, but that was from.
That was from
last
before?
time.
Okay, this is
I think
good.
actually it was you.
No, it wasn't. I didn't do contract to close last time. I've never done this one.
Well, there's something, look, Julie's notes. Maybe there's another, Julie has divided hers into first 10 days. Oh, it must be the time.
That was today.
No, it wasn't. That was my notes.
I haven't taught this course before.
Didn't.
Maybe it was already Julie. Sure you didn't write it today?
I'm absolutely sure because
Was
Okay.
it from last
Here's
time?
solutions. Don't be looking. Okay, here's my questions. Okay, write these down. You guys are a pair. You guys are a pair. You want to be a threesome?
Can I get a piece of paper?
Yes, you can.
It's right at the back. Just.
Julie. Go to Agents Open Houses. There you go, Julie. You're blaming it on me. Maybe I have taught it once or twice. I don't remember teaching it though. There's a different one that they always got me to teach.
Palacio taught this one last session.
Oh, did she?
I
Okay.
think I did it in 2001.
Maybe it was a few years ago. Yeah, my brain doesn't work.
Before it is.
This is a good course,
Yes.
and you always learn something new, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you do it, there is just.
No, it was.
So too much. There'll be no more.
So they see all like, so good for
This is
them.
why I
I don't know houses this year.
take the non.
Yes. So, are you looking at the answers?
No solutions.
Okay, no solutions.
Just wait.
Okay, you guys are, so you got all of them, there's inspections, repairs, and appraisals,
With you.
and then loan and fund, approval funding.
Well, you don't time hard enough unless I drive.
So I can do it, that's
So
it.
every day to come in.
So you guys are working on these ones, so there's 3 sections, inspections and repairs, appraisals, loan.
So if things go wrong during inspection, like,
Okay, so you guys are finding solutions to inspections and repairs, appraisals, and loan and
The
approval
loan
funding.
So that's the problem.
appraisal. Yeah, so you do one and then you just go down.
So if things go wrong
There is
during
no
inspection,
loan. Yeah, so it's kind of like.
So there's supposed to be other sales representatives.
What will we do?
There's also other contingencies and other.
Everybody's doing all of them.
Yeah.
So,
Sort of writing.
probably, if there are major structural issues to be framed,
Or find, like, the person who,
of the severity,
like, if it's like,
plus attach some sort of dollar
like,
value.
if you like, all the.
Yeah.
Or even like source out who can do it.
I can tell you.
Try and negotiate the rate.
You know what I did? I literally put it into my drive, yeah, and I like broke it up because there's so much coding. And so I broke it up, so each chapter, and then I knocked, no commission was like 1 page here, but I so I go to like PDF edit, and then you can like click on
Sometimes
pages that
especially
you want.
inspectors, you provide some sort of range.
Or you can go to print and then like print one page, or page 1 to 7, and then you can save it, yeah. Yeah, because I know what I
so the next one is the report.
and I would break down all the brochures that they would give me to only get the floor plans and price list, and then I'd send people like, here's the whole thing, and then here's like, you just what you get. Because like, I was tired of flipping through renderings of people smiling while they're speaking.
Yeah, you're looking at, yeah.
Literally, nobody would buy me. So,
Okay.
So they're gonna get them to do it, or find somebody that will be able to do it.
We'll actually review the report, and if they have any questions, we'll let them know, so I'm not missing anything, we're filling these budget ones.
So the next one is, report is.
It's not you that take them, right?
I will just.
So you're also the inspector.
Yeah,
Inspection
and then-
warrant is breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, like find the
That's their-
person,
that's-
like,
it's
in
their-
breakdown the maintenance term.
Should be done.
Right.
Sometimes
Well, the
it's
plan too is
prepared.
for.
So we didn't get all of
Okay, so that,
Okay, so why don't you also sometimes my guys, we could also just get them to.
Time, the next one is something will go wrong.
Because a lot of times, like,
Time
we just wanna
table.
fix it ourselves, right?
yeah, we don't have the courage, because
Yeah,
they're gonna rush
time
through it,
frame.
cheap out on it.
Okay.
So
And I
follow
think
up with
same
this
time, same
next
thing
table
with
for
time
Tuesday,
tables
just
and
make sure.
repairs.
that
Yeah, I think it's
While
also.
specifically visit the property.
If it doesn't,
Water in it,
if you take it out of time,
If there's receipts.
that's what it is, then we'll get another credit.
The access visit, do I still use that? So
Could be, it says during
It
the
has to be a
inspection.
solution on a solution. It's so much
So sometime between.
Doubt about worthiness, I don't know if that's.
Offer
I think
and-
that's
Oh,
what you're saying with the company.
Okay,
I would review, calling somebody reputable, like,
To provide an inspection.
yeah, so find reputable.
No, I mean, if anything that you can.
like, for example, we
It's
could
just a
try this
time
inspection, they will go in and get the person done off going.
I guess it's, I guess what it's saying is, if in your deal, there are repairs that need to be done, and they're supposed to be done on a certain timetable, what do we do to ensure that that timetable is adhered to? Or what do we do if something would appear off of that timetable?
so I guess we follow up on that.
Stay in communication with all parties,
And
get documentation.
just do not get him.
The next one is, during the inspection, there's a disc about worthiness.
That I told her, she's like, "Hey, give me an email." She gave it all to me.
But I don't really get what
Working on
that
her.
But whether the house is worth probably what they offered.
is. So that may be,
Yeah,
So she would, like, if we go around writing her, like, tripping on her, just
I'm not sure
her
what it
and
is.
stuff, they just
Yeah,
don't know.
that's good. So the next one is appraisals. And let's say the appraisal will support the work.
yeah, I saw it in cold and you don't want to chase her away by
Could
saying,
either
as long
pop
as it's
up.
signed.
So it's like,
If the seller's not gonna move on the price, you'll bump up the cash and loss and finance, still covers.
It's like, this is why I have that,
Or the
your
price
best
tag.
friend doesn't.
Exactly.
How I'm
So,
sitting,
Okay, so they wondering if I are not.
I have to write her.
Depends on the property, right? If it's a hot property and they move going in, that it's gonna be higher than market value, then that's a mistake.
She said she was, she's not sure recorded, now she wants me to see, but like.
At least she's like showing.
Yeah, but I
A
mean,
certain amount.
like, it was a good call. Does she actually
It won't
like
support the loan.
Yeah, you know what, and I said this to my best friend last night, I was like, you know what, if anything, you should do your due diligence and interview people, like, even with your mechanic. My mechanic had me change my battery 3 times.
Yeah.
Praise.
My best friend's like, are you kidding me, my daddy owns a ditch, she's like, I don't know,
They're
like,
pretty
you
well.
know, she's like, once every 10 years, maybe. So I went to a new mechanic and he was like, no, like, why, there's obviously something else. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was so mad, because that was my high school, like, best friend's best friend. That was my mechanic, you know, and I'm like,
Again.
wow, like, I supported you.
Yeah.
So I said to my girlfriend, it's like, you know what, interview other agents, like, I want you to choose me, I don't want you to
And
be
then
my
we
fault.
do, then we have them.
We're going in together, shit, she gets like a perfect, that like.
I know, but I think that, like, who are they gonna interview?
Higher
Do you know what I mean?
My mind is like, we go around the houses.
No,
But then
they
they have to,
Yeah.
You're invisible.
It doesn't match the seal.
Or you could use me, and like, maybe I'm doing it, which is fine, but I don't
The
think
appraisal
I'm
doesn't match the
So
seal.
I'm like, I use all these skills.
Yeah,
I always find.
So you can like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, so it's
like, you know even better than him, essentially.
Yeah,
He knows it
More
because
than-
he's been in it for X amount of years, but you're like doing the day-to-day execution.
all the time.
Right, but
All the deals, like, you're just selling things, okay, or add this.
Yeah.
You know,
But that's a
it's
great
And
great.
you can also go with the layman's term because you're the one who finished.
I guess the question is if if market value is $1 million, their company says it's $950,
Yeah.
but everything else shows that it's, $1 million, I've never had this done, can you negotiate with the appraisal?
Or can you negotiate with the the lender to say, hey, look, I get it, that's the appraisal price, but there is a
When I
higher
was an
price on
assistant, my
this.
boss
So
would
I
tell me
was-
that I make the
Do you set that, do you set the timetable?
No, wasn't it
Yeah,
appraisal?
yeah, because you can need 1 day to study.
So I bought it.
That would be.
And then I was like,
They
that's
asked the
part
lender,
of
said, hey, how much are you getting from the property? What's
And then
current
he
rent
texted me,
on
he's
that
like,
property?
you have all the
And I
time
said,
to study that.
2,200, let's say. And then when the appraisal came, they said, no,
He
it's
is
only
done over
18. But the lender still wanted it.
Awesome, you took your word.
Is it way, do what the rental income
This is on rental property. This one is
Yeah,
just
well,
a
even
normal
so,
kitchen.
when you do a CNA, it's very easy to say, well, units again.
Well, in certain markets,
Yeah,
it's
because
not.
he kind of came in super sick. Yeah, and then they become more little.
You take your sense from
A little bit, yeah.
St. Catharines or?
No,
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
it
true.
this one is.
It's like more effective that way.
So what did we say that was the?
And that's it. It's steep. But then you get
Yeah, because you need what's trickling down, but if it's not trickling down. Yeah, like if his bucket's empty, you're not getting
Careful with the
it.
words,
So was it advised?
Because you bought it.
Yeah, or.
But then it depends, if the landlord is supposed to set the price.
So I guess it really, so what happens if the CNA
Are you
doesn't
doing
have
spring?
it?
Oh, okay, I'm not with you.
Depends on who wants to see the
At the end of the
CNA.
day, you never go to you're not activating it for a long time. He never meant for you to be doing all
So I know sometimes,
So it was
I don't know if it's because of this, but sometimes realtors hire other realtors to go in and do a third, yeah,
Right.
third part of their opinion. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, if you're not.
And, but for some reason, I think
It's true, but that's,
Yeah.
no.
I've tried them a couple of times, but
I use one,
And
but I feel like I can't use them.
What's the word? Oh, what's the word?
I don't know what happens.
Right, for someone, yeah.
Right,
I don't know.
And that's tough too, because I think a lot of people do like on it,
Yeah, you don't go on appraiser,
to kind
you
of
can-
weed out all that stuff.
right.
So generally,
You
the
can challenge
appraisal
the
is
appraisal.
like human, it's always like,
You don't
it's
think that's-
just it's a value.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody that's
No,
all.
but they
I
say
wonder
no
if that-
here.
Yeah, some of like the states
Yeah.
out, like
Yeah.
push
Here,
them through us,
here.
it's brutal, so they're messaging the guys
Yeah,
in
for
front,
appraisal
and she's
cases,
writing
yeah.
them back, like, they sound like an idiot.
Like,
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I was with the team we had REW, and that was kind of like the same thing, so they
But that
would
might be
qualify,
right.
and they would write a message like, you know, we verified the email, or like, and it was just such a, but then anytime I did connect to anybody who essentially was never interested, they would, it was always different from the notes. So it's like your notes were garbage.
Well, we got called, and it follows up, it's just like, look what you do earlier, like,
Yeah. Yeah, so,
You would also, the
Yeah,
solution would be
you know,
to make
like,
sure that they're pre-developed.
Yeah.
only
Sometimes they
right now
refuse to
because
be used,
I've only been
right?
here since
Yeah.
this
So what do you do
Ignite
in those
program
situations?
started, like I literally signed the day before.
Or they're all keeping the facility.
So I'm here just for this.
Yeah,
I think
so if it was a
next week,
5-day
once it's
condition,
all over,
maybe
I'd
push
still
it
come in, but I wouldn't do it every day, or 2 or 3 times a
you don't
week.
get scared.
No, I just go into the little like area there, but just having people around in case I have questions, I think that's like better, because I don't like calling people for one question. So it's like I'd rather just a page, you know.
Hop over and be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and like, you know, I didn't have that with my last brokerage.
The next
So
one
I
is
really
there's
like
documentation
appreciated it.
problems.
But I also wouldn't have appreciated it if I didn't
Kind of like,
yeah, there and like treated it. So
Well, this is in the loan approval.
but I think also next week what I'm gonna do is the guy that I'm supposed to, he's been asking me to be his partner for a long time. I'm gonna just shadow him and spend time with
so
him.
if you ask what documents are missing, and we'll get them done. We'll get them done.
Help the
Is it
client.
an ID, is it a contract, yeah, what is it?
I don't know how to do
you
that.
know?
Again, wire credit issues.
Well, that's what I did with all my
So it's a
brokerages
credit
and
card,
stuff, but I think
At least 30, 60 days
Oh,
before.
see?
because my mom was such an asshole, so I came in very, like, it took 2 months to decide
So
where I
loan
wanted to
approval
work.
funding
And like
problems
this
with
guy
the buyers.
was like up and down and all that stuff, so I felt like I did my due diligence.
Don't buy a
But I
car,
think I was
change jobs.
like running from my old
That's the
boss
issue with
so much
advising
that I
people
wanted the
we're not to do before.
opposite, but that wasn't a happy medium either. So like, but it was only 4 months.
It's a failure to
Nonetheless,
approve.
like, you know, I feel like now I'm like, that's why I decided to go solo. I was like, you know what?
Yeah, but you want to
Literally though.
sign it for
Yeah.
how far we are. Call.
Yep. Well, we started here.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's move through.
Okay, are we done?
Credit.
Okay, are we done?
What numbers down?
Well, you
That's what
gotta.
we're
Are we
doing.
on?
We're about halfway.
All the questions you have, like, you would ask.
One more minute.
Somebody else, you're doing fine.
One more minute. One more minute.
Short sale relocation.
There's too much to discuss.
I thought that
They're big,
but
but these
why
are
did
really
we do
good
that?
These are good, we want you to help.
So good. I'm glad. Okay.
What is it?
Sure.
I'll just run to the bathroom.
Julie, what's a short sale relocation?
Ignore that.
Yeah.
And Bill.
Well, relocation is different, but short sale is the American term. It was when the market was crashing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about that. Short sales do not apply here.
Other sales representative has given bad advice or communication.
She's like, that's what I was looking for.
To their client. Or to us.
I would assume that meant to us.
Indeed,
It wouldn't
yeah,
trigger
like I'm like,
necessarily to their communication per client. But what you would just ask, you ensure everything, right?
So there's that communication from me.
Yeah. Bad communication
you
officer
so
won't
do that
know.
as a solo agent.
I just responded to my emails.
Is that a lead that you're on?
Is that-
Warm lead.
Yeah.
Sometimes honestly, I've had situations where I've door knocked. I've had a very poor response. I came back a week later. They were very friendly and open. I went in, they remembered me. I thought that we had to kick it off. Amazing. I leave, I come back. Obviously, they didn't sign because it was expired. I come back a month later and just showing me off as if we hadn't even met when I sat down. It's weird. Don't look at it.
This was another
Like I should be able to use your recent
Okay.
sales as mine, like you kind of,
Oh,
I'm gonna use
she-
your.
It's very complicated. It would involve commissions.
And we have a lead because it's just.
Okay, so their issues are from you less than
Cause I hate
Yeah.
what you should be made.
and,
Yeah. And then she
But
went,
like,
I talked to
there
Dora.
was like 18 people
Broker,
on my
he's
team.
like,
When we went to pick
it's
up
not
our
about
work
your money.
at the town,
Try to
we
keep
took up
it.
the whole
Yeah.
stage. And
We'll
it,
talk.
Especially on lease.
It
Deadline
got into
inspections and repairs.
yeah, it's like, hey, I'm really busy, will you take this? Do you need help? Like,
Deadline
that's exactly
inspections and
what
repairs, again, just be on top of it, following up with all the programs.
But then you can just order
Yeah,
it.
so you take
Yeah,
the first
sure,
call
sure.
and then like.
If she quizzes us, I'll take the last.
And I told
Day
you,
of
I like that
completion
because
date.
I think people, as all the place, sometimes they might, like you said, it's like responding, you know, it's, when you have two personalities,
What's the
you
problem?
both do a good cop,
It does
whatever
say-
the role is.
It just
for
says
everybody.
date of completion.
And then when you can see someone fighting with your partner, you take a step back, or vice versa, I like that.
Keep it safe, and that's what just says. Things go wrong. Push up for this time, so sit drunk, pay extra.
If you
They're not
should
gonna-
have-
Sounds like.
Like you do a lot of like admin.
Did you guys, the worthiness, are they thinking if the house is worth it or what?
That's, we had the same.
You had the same?
This issue with the Aussie where I couldn't get myself watching.
Yeah.
Like, you got the
Do they think
inspection
I'm
back?
worthy?
Yeah. And they're thinking, are they getting buyer's remorse?
Get them to
Because
do their
they saw the
expectations and kind of,
inspection,
like,
or-
make it more
That was my
what
interpretation
I'm
of it,
looking
but-
for, you know, it's like,
Yeah,
yes, like
so-
manage their expectations.
Yeah, I guess clarity around that.
Ahead of time, and then whatever you get, you kind of like deal with it then. But if you manage it, then they will
Or
be
is it
so.
the wording?
What if it has to do with, because that's, in that section, it also speaks to repairs, what if they're not happy with the quality of
Right,
it?
that's it.
The repairs, well, there's
Right.
always the cost,
Yeah,
there's
so
the
I know what they
satisfaction
can
of
do
the
is go
buyer,
another
right?
later.
So maybe that's.
And there's a waiver, there's,
Another appraisal.
this is how we
Yeah,
approach
like,
it, right?
between the
And
deal.
maybe
Yeah,
negotiate the
but-
price.
But they're only gonna go
Right.
on the high-end market or
Yeah,
low-end,
or
and
you
you're not
choose-
going
yeah.
up.
I'm assuming
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
conditional on
And
inspection.
this is always
Right.
very conservative,
Yeah.
because it's a bank.
Yeah.
And
But
they're not gonna be
nowadays,
nice to
we
you.
always, for our
Okay, so all this
listings,
we
we
just
do an
flush
inspection.
with whatever you just said.
So that the
And then,
buyer is
we'll
aware,
do
they
the
can
funding
see it,
application
Mhm.
thing.
instead of waiting.
Some places all stuff, that makes me nervous.
Seize the golden opportunity. Okay. Who wants to answer the last one? Deadlines, inspections and repairs, day of completion date, and occupancy. Anybody here, did you even discuss it?
We're
We
not
got
quite
there.
sure what it means, but what the problem is.
So the problem is, what would be problems? I guess deadlines would be access visits. The last minute, what if your buyer, what if your seller does not want an access visit on the last day? What's the dealio there?
Can
That's a
they
good
say
question.
that? Like, can they like say no to having that last visit?
You have to read the clause in the offer that says what it says. So basically, if, for example, it says 24 hours notice,
Yeah.
Okay.
then technically you have to give them at least 24 hours notice.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it says at mutually agreed upon times. Technically, they can't say no, but they could push back.
But they do want to sell the house, right, so they do want to work with you?
See, this is
Yeah.
manipulating the situation. That's exactly right. That was good, that was
And
good.
and their agent would want to work with you.
Part of it is also putting it in your offer
Yeah.
to be very specific, that says, I would like a clip showing one of my access visits can be on the last day. And then you're done. Then it's like right up front.
Clause.
It's great in that clause. That's a good clause, just as an FYI. Day of completion date, build in the buyer and seller flexibility. So, their answer is build in the buyer and seller flexibility. What is that? What is flexibility? It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. Flexibility, what's a flexibility? So it would be, you guys studied this, right? Like did you study clauses and stuff like that? On
Yeah.
extending, you know, or shortening and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to do that before? In an offer? No?
I don't recall having to do that.
So it says, for example, if you got a property, you could sort of say, well, the seller is willing to extend the closing up to 30 days or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Now, it could be buyer and seller are willing to, or just the seller, or just the buyer, or something like that. So that's sort of flexibility.
Is it willing to or has the option to?
Is willing to, or the option to, yeah, it could be both of those things. Where you mostly find this issue is in probate. If you know, you've sold a property and it hasn't, like the probate hasn't gone through or something like that, that's when you need these extensions. That's probably the most common extension we deal with.
Would you not get to probate before putting the house on the market?
Yes. Does anybody here have experience with probate or anything like that, or wills and all that kind of stuff?
A little bit, but that was not the deal that I was doing. It was.
So the deal with probate is if there's going to be nobody sort of contesting the will or whatever, it usually goes a lot faster. But what lawyers tell you, basically you can't really control the courts, but if you have a firm deal, it actually speeds up the probate that the courts push through. So essentially you do sell it prior to probate being finished, and you hand them the offer and say, we have a firm closing, so we needed this to be sped up. You need at least sort of 6 to 8 weeks, and sometimes 12 weeks. So often what you do is you start it, like I did 2, I think, last year, and you do it maybe before probate's done, but at least it's been started. And what started means is like the lawyer has all of the information. Because there's tax information, there's all sorts of stuff that has to be filed to get into the court system, and the courts are really particular. It's all just sort of a certain system. But you can start it, and then you list it, and then you sell it, and then you show them the firm offer. And it can speed it up. It's only if you don't think anybody's gonna fight it though, right? So probate basically means they send out a letter to all the beneficiaries and anybody in the family and say, this is what's happening, you have this much time to, you know, whether you're, you know, if you have an issue with it, then you have to file it with the courts or whatever. Then it extends it. But if there's not gonna be a problem, it can be pushed through. That's the thing. That's what I've heard, had. Occupancy, preset dates, limits, deadlines, I don't know, preset dates, limits, and penalties. That's maybe more along new build. If you guys have ever had new build experiences, occupancy and that sort of thing. It can also happen, for example, a deadline would be, when they say inspections and repairs, would be like, well, you said that you're gonna have this fixed. It has to be fixed prior to closing, like the washer, dryers, and we're gonna come and check. That's sort of a fix that you have to come and check.
What happens if they don't fix it?
You have grounds for not closing. But most lawyers don't want to fight. This is the problem. Anyway, let's go backwards here. Other sales representatives, bad advice or communication. Didn't you say that you were having, who was saying nobody was communicating?
With me, but with regards to the lawyer's office.
Oh, you see, that's it, right? You have to keep phoning. Keep phoning. I'm sure Vanessa has it all the time. Just to keep getting inattention to detail. Inattention to detail can happen, like, for example, on closing, the buyer is not prepared with the right amount of money, or the seller is not prepared with the key, or the right amount of money, or whatever. There's a lot of that. Like, for example, they don't have their tax bill. Then you need that. You know, all these sorts of things. Inattention to detail would be, another would be that clause about, okay, so they're asking for an access visit, but it's last minute. That's inattention to detail. They should have read what the clause said. If it said 24 hours, you need 24 hours. Poor vendor selection. What's a vendor? What do they mean by vendor?
Probably like a contractor or something. Like maybe like somebody they used a mortgage person, they didn't like it.
Yeah, maybe.
But
Yeah,
that's their
maybe
fault.
that's what they mean by a vendor.
What does it
I
say
think that's an
there?
American term.
What's their solution?
Well, you can recommend people maybe.
I mean, in
But
their.
it's up, well, at that point, they've already signed for the mortgage.
It could be that at the last minute you need to change it.
Moving companies, maybe.
Moving companies, that's another good one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
They're not prepared.
Smaller truck than they should have brought.
That happens, that totally happens. Okay, what did you guys say about any of these? Bad advice or communication? Anybody? Anybody fill that part in? Anne?
We didn't on that, because by that time, he was getting so fast and I couldn't read the questions. I said, well, okay, you can do this orally, and now he's gone.
He's on the phone somewhere. Okay, who answered the thing about other contingencies? Didn't we just deal with this? The sale of the buyer's home. Sale of the buyer's home.
So title insurance.
You're so cute. I'm just gonna die here, it's so cute. I got it. Will that cover it?
No, it'll help.
It'll help, it will definitely help. So, I'm not really sure what they sort of mean by that.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a toughie, only if, so for example, that would work on a clause that says that the offer is contingent on that, like conditional upon the sale of the buyer's property. And that's really in a quieter market when we're sort of really hoping, you know what I mean? If you know, if the market's not as strong, we definitely do that whole, you know, conditional on sale of purchased property, but not at this point, so we're not really gonna get into that. Short sale, relocation, state approvals, other contingencies. The short sale we're not gonna talk about, but relocation is usually pretty good. Except, there is a problem. What about if the seller lives in the States and they're selling their house here? What happens? This is a really good question.
Oh, there's, the tax.
Yes.
Capital gains.
What happens? Vanessa, have you ever had that?
Not for my client, no, but
No.
it's on the buyer, the new buyer. Is
Yes.
responsible for paying the HST, or the the non-resident tax.
Technically, the seller is, but the buyer holds back money. And it's held by their lawyer to make sure that enough tax is paid. So I had it last year, they were American, they lived in the States, they were selling their house here, and they were non-residents, and they had to have
Non-resident Canadians?
non-resident Canadians, and they had to hold back like, I don't know, $400,000 or something like that, and the buyer's lawyer held it back, which is a lot. And then we had to wait for the CRA to approve it. It's a big, huge deal, but it actually is
Does
interesting.
the buyer submit it to the CRA on behalf of?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
It's very complicated.
Yeah. Like, why isn't that just the sellers?
I don't know if you think that.
Because they'll just.
But I guess because they want to hold the house as hostage.
That's what they, because they'll disappear is
Yeah.
the point.
Because
And the
they're-
buyer now owns the property,
Yeah,
and somebody owes the tax on it,
yeah.
right? So the buyer doesn't want to be held for that. But it is a big thing. And what about a buyer buying who's not a resident here?
So non-resident.
Non-resident.
Non-resident Canadian.
Non-resident tax,
Yeah, what's that?
15%?
I don't know.
I think so.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I don't know, I think so.
It is, yeah.
So that was last year, 2 years put in, right?
Yeah.
Like in April, it was part of that.
They have to live in there?
They pay an extra 15%
If you're non-resident.
if you're non-resident.
If you're non-Canadian.
That's
Yeah,
non-Canadian.
Non-Canadian.
Yeah, because it's non-resident Canadians who don't.
Non-residents.
Non-Canadian buying in Canada
Okay.
Yeah.
is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, what if you're a non-resident Canadian coming back? Does it matter? It's,
No,
you're
I don't
done.
think so.
You're easy?
You
I
don't,
just dealt with this.
you don't pay the tax.
It's easy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, you
That was
don't.
they told me that you don't have
You don't pay the tax.
because they're like, I've been out of the thing for 18 years, do I have to pay? And I was like, I'm not sure, it's been 18 years.
I
Like,
know.
I'll check for you. I'm like, that's not like it's 5. So
Right.
they asked, and they're like, I don't think so. So yeah.
Okay. Lisa, you can't leave yet, just as you know. No, I know, you got 1 more minute here.
Okay.
Okay, loan
I
approval
told my boy
funding.
to wait if I wasn't there on
I
time.
know, tell them to wait.
He's waiting outside. That's the thing, they kicked him out of the school
Did they?
yesterday.
Sunny.
Stay
Okay.
there if I'm late.
Okay, any points on loan approval and funding? What did people talk about that? Anything? Buyer credit issues? What do you do?
Yeah, so the deal can fall apart if the mortgage is not approved.
But what if it's a firm deal? What if it's not conditional?
You're doing the.
That's
what I
really
wanna
where
know.
the problem
That's
comes
what
in.
doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I wanna know.
Yeah, so what do you do? What happens?
Wait for a deposit back.
Okay,
You go talk to the.
in real life,
You wouldn't be in that
this
situation.
is what happens.
Yeah.
This
What's
is real.
right? You give the deposit back?
You beg,
You beg.
you beg to get out of the deal. That's number one.
Yeah.
That's what you try and do. If you really can't afford it and you know you can't get the financing or whatever, one of the options is to ask the seller to release you from the deal,
Yes.
which is a big thing. But in Canada, and especially Toronto, people are not litigious, and they don't want to get their property held up, and they don't want their lives to be all screwed up. So they actually do agree to it, which is, but it's true. Or a family or friend makes a gift. But the big thing is, for credit issues with the stress test, it's a bit of more of a problem. So what if your seller says to you, how do we know they can afford it?
They should get a pre-approval.
Yes, and but as a seller, you're representing the seller, what do you tell a seller? Like you have no,
Control over the buyer.
yeah. It's kind of a loosey-goosey part, I'm just gonna say. We don't see their pre-approvals. We don't see anything. So as a buyer's agent, it's actually in your best interest to bring your approval with your offer and say, look, they have been approved for this, which is the first step. The house has to be approved too.
Yeah, so what happens if the appraiser comes for the bank and says it's not worth?
That's when you have to go through the comps with the appraiser and say, actually, this is a better comparable, and this is a better comparable, and this is why.
Right.
And you're the resident expert, because appraisers don't really know the neighborhoods. They only work with comparables 6 weeks usually, like really close, and often there aren't good comparables. So you actually have to go through, and then what you do is you get another appraisal. I've had 4 appraisals on one property.
Do you all attend the appraisals?
No,
No.
but you could, if
Yeah.
things are starting to go sideways.
I've done that on properties of mine, just to, and talk it up and,
That's what you
you
do.
know.
If
finesse
you're
them.
worried about it, especially when they paid a heck of a lot of money,
Right.
and you're trying to get them to approve it, yeah, it's a good idea.
Given the market, could you, as the listing agent, not suggest to the other side that it would be good if they, added that to the offer or included their approval?
Well, it's true. I do find it a little weird in this business that we don't have any guarantee that a buyer can afford it. We're just hoping and trusting you. So you bring me an offer and I'm like, oh, she's in my office, I'm sure her buyer's good.
Has she
But
checked?
she doesn't know how good her buyer is.
I know.
Like, you don't know.
Well,
The
you're
deposit is supposed to be that's why it's supposed to be a hefty enough chunk to secure this deal going.
well,
down
it's
the
supposed to, but 50,000 won't make or break somebody.
map. Right.
But it will. But it will if they But it will if they have to go bankrupt. It will if they have to, like if they're on defaulting, yes, it will start to break you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the 50,
Right.
it's the damages, it's the reselling, it's all that crap that has to happen. It's their moving expenses, I mean, it just adds,
Mhm.
keeps adding up. But it is a very weird part of this business, I'll just tell you right now. Just be prepared.
So you've had 4 appraisals on one home,
Yeah,
and with the 4th one, you got what you were looking for?
yeah, exactly. It wasn't me, it was the buyers who, yeah, they couldn't
So
get
they paid-
financing.
They paid,
It was a contractor. Contractors have trouble getting financing too, right?
yeah.
So
That lasts, because they're self-employed, is that what you're at?
they're self-employed, and they're not happy with what it came out as, you know what I mean? So, self-employed is a big problem.
I thought there was new.
And they've got too many other properties that they've got going and not enough,
Okay.
they're skating a bit.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that they're gonna sell the properties.
Okay, Lisa, I know you have to go. If everybody else has to go, it's fine. I can finish up with whoever can stay, which is inspections and repairs and appraisals. I guess we sort of got into that a little bit. Doesn't match the CMA. CMA, what does anybody think about the CMA? So a CMA could be what you said it's worth, right? Or what I said it's worth, which isn't really, like, we're not the appraiser people. And remember, MPAC is full of
But
crap.
wouldn't they know already what the CMA is before putting the offer in?
Yes
Like,
and
this
no.
And then they
But
come
what
back after and
happens
they're like,
is-
oh, it doesn't match?
$200,000 later, like people offer 200, 300 more than asking. This is where the problems come in. Banks don't like it at all. This
So
is
the issue with the asking price, not the offer price.
exactly. With the offer price, they don't have a problem with the asking price, the banks. The banks have a problem with the, so where you have to get into it is saying, technically we underpriced it.
Yes.
That's where you're sort of explaining. So yeah,
Right.
does that make sense? We're underpricing it and we got to where we, maybe a couple percent, 5% more than the next one, but not a ton kind of thing. I have had a deal where one of Jen's offers, and we were $60,000, we couldn't, the buyer and the appraiser were $60,000 apart, and the buyer couldn't close the deal because they didn't have an extra $60,000, just like you said, could break you. So we went back to the seller and we renegotiated the deal. So the buyer paid an extra 30, the seller took 30 off. So
You the seller could take back that 60 and you could pay them out over a year or something?
yeah, but most people don't
They
take
don't want
back
to do that, right.
because they need the money too.
Right.
The thing is, the sellers were more willing to renegotiate the price, knowing that the buyer overpaid by quite a bit and they couldn't get their financing, versus going into reselling it again and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So this is where it's the asking thing. Just like you ask for referrals, you ask for this. Speaking of referrals, so the one thing that we haven't totally talked about, and I know I have to leave now, you all have to leave now, is the whole point of this is asking for referrals. So this is the time where you're supposed to be asking for referrals, being intentional about it, what Aresta said. And Vanessa, you have a good opportunity a lot of the time Yeah, when you're talking to your clients, because you're touching them a lot, and you're telling them all shit that you just.
But it's hard because they're not my clients.
I know.
So I can't be like, can you send someone over to me? Do you know what I mean? Ryan would be like, bye. Like,
Well, it wouldn't be sending some, is there anybody else that you know that Ryan could help? You see what I mean?
yeah.
You have been such an amazing client, and we love working with you. Do you have any friends or family who are thinking about work, doing it right now?
Well, Ryan can do that because I just send the email.
Right, so.
I don't actually have to physically ask for it,
Okay,
which is great. That's up to him to follow up on.
it is our responsibility as the realtor, for sure. But do you see what I mean? So when you're talking to a client, that's an easier way to warm them up, which is like, working with you has been a dream. It's been like, from the beginning, I've loved every minute of it. Number one is, do you think we could take 30 to 45 seconds and you could do a quick little video about your experience? And I never say I ask for, I just say tell us your experience, because there's other people who have your, who are going to be in your position. And you telling your story is a lot more effective than me telling mine. So that's one of the things. And we do it on access visits a lot. So we get the little video testimonial on access visit. And then the other thing is, you've been so amazing to work with. Do you have any friends or family who are thinking about it? Because I'm totally open and, would love to keep, help anybody, that's the kind of stuff. That's the intention, so.
Do you bring a professional videographer on the access visits, or is this on your phone?
I bring my camera and microphone and everything, but Jen and Tyler and all those guys, they just use their iPhones. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's just a quick little 30-second or 45-second, or a minute, whatever. And like Lisa, for example, has 3 kids, lives in the neighborhood, moving up, blah, 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 blah. But you could be totally different. I don't know if you're married, I don't know if you have kids, I don't know. You're a different kind of person, so let's use your story. People will relate to you. I do estate sales well. I just sold my mom's place, and it was really sensitive, and Julie was really great, and I really appreciated how they were able to keep in touch and help me through the probate issue, and blah, 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 blah. Each story is different. We're moving from a condo to a house, we're moving out of the city, we're moving, this and that and the other thing. We were first-time buyers, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we had a really low budget, and it was really helpful to have Lisa help me so much. That's the thing. Sure. Thank you for coming. I know I put you guys on the spot a little bit, but you were really helpful.
Great.
Yeah, it's good. I'm
Thank you so
glad you
much.
attended. Hope your travel's okay.
I gotta go up that way.
Are you
That's
in
the way.
Maureen O'Neill's office?
Yes.
Make sure you say hi.
Yes. If anyone's going to open house tomorrow, I won't be there, but 55 Bermouth Gardens is where my line will be. So. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
See ya.
See ya.
All done?
All done?
Thanks, Jules.
Come on. You learn? Quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
This was a good
Every
example.
day.
This little.
The money
Karen was selling her house and buying another one, and we were trying to figure